Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's Mike and this is Build and Tinker. And after something of a delay, we're back on the 66 Batmobile. And I know I'm a little bit behind some of the other YouTubers who are also building this model. So if you're still here sticking with me, then I appreciate that. I've just been kind of busy with a bunch of whole different things and I was away for a while and it's just taken me a while to catch up with work and what have you. But we're here on issue 93 today and we're going to go all the way up to issue 98. And I've got some parts in front of me, so let's take a look and get started. And these are the parts that we have today, and there's really not a lot to do on issue 93. So I'm just going to release these from the box. We've got this rear window. So it's the curved piece that goes over the back of the car. So that's clear perspex. Going to need to be very careful with that. We also have two very small. I'm going to get some tweezers for this one before I find them. There we go. We have two incredibly small little lenses. This one has already managed to come off the sprue, so we need to make sure we don't lose that. And then we've got a couple of chrome pieces. These are corner details that are going to be fitted to the actual window itself. We don't actually need this part, so I'm going to put it right back in the box for safe keeping, because our first step is actually to insert these little lenses into these chrome pieces. So like I said, they are very small. This is the sprue, but that is actually... It's only this piece here that's the actual lens. So let's take that off. Well, it's fallen off all on its own, really. And then we have these two chrome detail pieces, and each one has a hole in it. And we simply have to insert these lenses into these holes. So wish me luck. So that's the first one in. It was kind of fiddly. I kind of used the tweezers and my fingers, but it did. Once you get it lined up, it's not too bad. The problem with very thin tweezers, which is what you need for this, is they sometimes have the opposite effect of being useful, and they occasionally just twang the part halfway across the room. Well, at least they do when I'm using them. Maybe it's more me than the tweezers that's at fault. And then we have both of those complete, the little lenses in those holes. And that is actually everything we have to do on this particular issue. We don't do anything with the window yet. So let's move on to issue 94. So these are the parts that we have received with issue 94. We have got a bag of screws. And then we have two chromed window trims. Now these are very delicate, they're plastic. And this is a curved one. It goes on the bottom of the rear window. And then we have this sort of more pointy bat-shaped one, and I think this goes around the so this goes on the bottom, sorry, and this goes on the front. And we need to fit these. Now, interestingly, they've also given me this, which looks like a set of double-sided tape strips. However, they're not mentioned in the instructions at all. They're not mentioned in the parts list. They're not mentioned in any of the installation stages. So I have no idea what we need those for, and I'm going to ignore them for the moment. Okay, so to complete step one, we're going to need to take this window back from before, and you can see how the shape of the trim fits, but let's see how easy it is to actually install it. I'm probably going to start with the front one. So we need to get it the right way around. There are some, if you look at the frame, it has a rolled edge, which obviously needs to be outermost, and then this sort of finished edge, which obviously needs to be on the top. And then there's some little posts sticking out of it all the way around. And they line up with holes here. And in theory, it's just going to drop into place, in theory, and push fit. I'm trying to keep my fingers off of the perspex. And obviously, I'm also not going to put the perspex down on the desk, so that the window down on the desk, because I don't want to break it. So I'm just starting from the center and working my way around to the edge and trying to find each of the little pins that's supposed to clip into place. The middle one was okay, and there's one at the top of each of these arches around here. It does look like the ends aren't going to hold down until we get a corner piece in which has some screws, because there are no posts on the very ends here. Interestingly, one end bends out more than the other one does. So we've kind of got the front on. Let's have a look at how the base piece fits. So it has like a curved edge on one side and a flat on the other. So obviously the flat's going to go down. So the we're going to bring it into here to just gently follow the shape of this window, sitting it over the top of these tabs, and you'll see there are it's transparent so it's hard to see it, but there are two posts here and here, and we're going to try and get those engaged first, I think, with the little pins on the chrome piece. I'm just going to line it up, give it a very gentle squeeze. And then we'll work our way around one side. These little silver pins are incredibly thin, so you've got to be sure they're perfectly lined up before you try and push them in, because if they're not, you're just going to break them off. They don't want to line up very well. So this first pin here sort of seems to face at a bit of an angle, so I'm having to sort of pull it forward. So there we go, and then it's engaged in. Just be really slow and gentle and try and keep an eye on the pins as they're going in. But I think I'm having to put just a tiny bit of tension on it to get the pin to line up. But it does. It's just about having a little bit of patience. So there we are. I've done one side all the way along there. Just going to go back to this side. Again, make sure these bottom ones are still in. Start with this first one. I'm literally just ever so gently pulling it towards the front so that the pin lines up, and then it goes in. And that's the last one there in the middle. That's gone in. And then there's another one. Sorry, there's one more just here. Okay. Made me very nervous because it's making all sorts of clicking noises, but it seems to be in place. Okay. Part of the problem is as well is that when you're pushing one side in, it has a tendency to want to pop the rest of them out. So, right, I've got all the chrome pieces on. And now to hold them in permanently, we're going to take these corner pieces that we inserted the lenses into earlier, and these are going to go down where these chrome pieces join. So we're going to go into these corners here, and the same on the other side, and hold it all on, because I think we screw into them. Oh, no, we don't. They literally just a push fit. Let's bring you in a little closer. There we go. So we're going to try and fit these onto the corners just here, where they're going to push in, apparently, and hold it all together. Well, let's see how we get on with that, shall we? I may end up sort of covering this with my fingers while I'm doing it. It might be quite hard to show you how I'm doing it. These are also handed. I don't know if you can see, they're stamped with an L on the bottom of that one. So we also need to make sure we get it on the correct side. So L is over here. Every now and again, you wish you'd meet someone down a dark alley and that someone was a Fanhome designer. I jest, but or do I? But yeah, this is in design terms, I think there's a technical term for this, which is awful. Keeping it family friendly. it just doesn't hold in. It's not really, the little posts on it aren't really thick enough to get all the way through everything. And it's somewhat reliant on the little lens that we installed earlier, I think, to hold it in place. So, the back end of that snapped off pretty much instantly because it's so thin. It didn't seem to want to line up with the hole. So, I don't really understand who thought this was a good idea. I foresee super glue in my immediate future, while I try to get that to stay through something other than the power of suggestion, because it's just not going to hold itself in. But obviously this is a transparent piece, so if you do glue it, you're going to have to be incredibly careful to make sure that you don't get glue in the wrong places. Let me try the other side, see if that's any better. It's really hard to show you what I'm doing because I'm trying to hold all these pieces together at once and keep all the holes lined up, which is problematic at best. I also can't see what I'm doing. This is too small for me to be able to see what I'm doing.
A few moments later.
Okay, it's almost in. I've got the end pieces kind of staying there. How long they'll stay there for, I don't know. But it's caused this middle piece to sort of pop out, and now it won't sit down. Okay, I have the chrome pieces on now. Took a lot of finagling. So there's one more stage here in issue 94, and that is they want us to secure this to the body of the Batmobile. Let me show you. You'll probably remember this piece from previous issue, and obviously the window goes in here. Sits nicely underneath, and there's some tabs, and you screw it in from underneath. And I'm not going to do that. And the reason I'm not going to do that is because it's not very long into the build. In a few issues' time, they're going to ask us to flip this over and install all the lighting and what have you. There's absolutely no way I'm going to attach this and then work on it upside down with it on this. This is going to get broken if you do that. So you'll only end up removing this again anyway. And again, it's a fragile plastic part. I want to put it in once and once only. So I will not be doing that at this stage. I'm going to put it back in its box. It can go back in the box it came in with all these parts added, so that's fine. And I'll fit it somewhere closer to the end. And I'm going to take the screws that came with it. They'll go in the box as well. And this is now safe and secure for later on. So we'll pop this away. And now we'll move on to issue 95. So in issue 95, we get these rocket launchers. They go on the back of the car and they face sort of backwards. And we see them. They're kind of part of the alarm system. So if someone tries to steal the Batmobile, and there's a great scene early on in the series where the Riddler tries to do that. It fires rockets out of these, and they kind of explode in the sky. And that's how Batman knows someone's trying to steal his car. Which is quite cool. I think we see them a couple of times. Now, they give us this plate. This plate, let me zoom you in a little bit. There we go. This plate is attached to the bottom of the metal plate that I just showed you, yeah, where the window attaches to. And then we have these three rocket launchers. Now, they are different lengths because one is... Let me put them down here so you can see. The middle one's longer than the outer two. Now, these are actually metal. They're chrome, and they're painted on the inside with a sort of orange paint. So they're really nice pieces. And actually, once this is attached to the bottom, these will go on top. They do have a little keyway to make sure they don't spin round and end up facing the wrong way. And they'll look like this, and they will go... How cool is that? They go on the back of the car. And they are really, really smart. Now, I'm not going to fit them for two reasons. The first reason is the same reason I didn't fit the window. They're going to get in the way. They're going to be sticking up out of the back of the car, and then very soon they want us to do work on the underside of that panel. I want to do all that work first and then attach the things to the top of the car. And this goes on with two little screws, so it's very easy to wait to the end on that. But if I show you the instructions, this is how they're attached. So we assemble them like this, literally a push fit. We push them through the holes in the base plate, and then a couple of screws attach it. There's another reason why I'm not going to fit these yet, and that's because there's a mod coming. Now, anyone who's already bought the Bat Circuit has the option to add a mod. that Mike is literally about to launch it. It's not on his website yet, but I know it's coming because I've seen it. He showed it on his workshop tour. So anyone who hasn't seen the Mike Lane workshop tour, I'll put a link to that below. It was done by Pitstain Hobbies. They came over from the States. Ian from Pitstain came over from the States, did a tour of Mike's workshop, and Mike showed loads and loads of behind the scenes stuff, including prototypes of different products, one of which was the rocket launchers for this. So there is a set of lights that could go inside these rocket launchers. They're animated with sound and what have you, and they connect directly into the bat circuit. So the bat circuit already has a socket for them. And then there's a small software update to do to the bat circuit to enable this feature. So that's coming out literally any day. There's a small modification required to fit it, which is to drill a hole in the bottom of each of these plates here to feed the LED through. So there's one LED for each of the rocket launchers. So that's another reason why I'm not going to fit this, is because I need to drill those holes out. Now, drilling holes in these pieces is really easy, for particularly these pieces like this, because they're plastic. And you can literally just use a very small hand drill, whether that's cordless or even a hand drill, and a wood bit. And it will go through it is like butter. You just take it steady, keep it straight, keep it slow, and it will go through very easy. And in fact, the great thing about this is it's actually almost a guide, because you can drill through. If you can see that there, you can put the drill through there. So it literally acts like a drill guide to keep it straight. So as soon as I have a set of those LEDs, I will run through the process of how to install them. They're very, very simple. Say 3 holes, and then you run the cable. And it plugs straight into a dedicated socket in the bat circuit. And I'll also run through how to do the firmware update. So that leaves us with nothing more to do on issue 95, and we'll move on to issue 96. So in issue 96, we get the trunk lid and the hinges to attach it with, and we're going to put it onto the top plate of the car that I showed you earlier. So this piece, I am actually going to fit it. I know I've avoided fitting pieces to this today, but this one can go on without too much trouble. Oh, let's get that the right way. There we go. So the first thing we're going to do, I'll get this out of the way for a second. And we're going to actually fit the hinges. So we need those. There's 2 metal hinges here. We've also got the trunk lid itself, some screws, and some, I think it's the prop catch and other elements for that. So first things first, we need to clear the deck and put something soft down. One of the first things it wants us to do is fit these hinges. They are handed, believe it or not, and it actually is stamped on the bottom left or right on the bottom of here. So we need to make sure we get that right. So obviously, when we're looking at what's left, what's right, we're looking at it from the driver's perspective. So if this was this way up, that's the front of the car. So that's the right hand hinge. And they both just sit over like that. And then there's 2 screws on each hinge. They are AM screws. Okay, and with those attached, we now put this piece on. This is the trunk prop catch. So it has a one side has a hole in the middle, you can see that, and the other one has a hole which is offset. So the hole in the middle is the one we're looking for, because when we drop it over here facing that way, then that's our screw hole, and another AM screw attaches that. And then we want to put all of this onto the body plate. So let's bring that up onto the bench. So with the rear body panel on the bench, this now needs to be attached, and we're going to bring it underneath, being careful with the paint. And we need to just drop the hinges into their guides here, okay? And I've got something soft underneath to stop the paint getting damaged. And And we've got these two plates. They're the hinge cover plates, and they're literally going to drop over here and here to hold these this end of the hinge in. We're going to use CM screws for that. And with that attached, we'll flip this over, and there we have the trunk lid, and it seems to be reasonably well lined up. It's sitting flat when it's closed, and yet we can open it up like that. There we go. Again, nice, quick, and simple issue. So with that done, we'll move on to issue 97. So in issue 97, we actually get to start on one of the doors, and it's Batman's door. It's the driver's side. And obviously one of the first things we do with a painted piece is just check that there's no issues with the paint, nothing missing, nothing scratched. And actually that one looks absolutely fine. You also get a couple of hinges and a packet of screws. And with something soft on the bench again, we're going to turn the door upside down. And we're going to start by fitting the hinges. They are not identical. So there is 97B and 97C, and they are stamped. However, they're stamped with alpha left and then A and B, whereas the part numbers are B and C. So I'm still none the wiser. Okay. I don't just love logic. So it turns out the one stamped A is actually B, and the one stamped B is actually C. So yeah, A goes on top. Sometimes it's best not to ask too many questions. So A goes on top, just like this. There's two posts and one screw hole, so we just push the hinge over these posts like that, so that the center one is free for a screw. We use an EM screw, and it's simply a case of putting a screw in the center of each hinge. Again, you want them nice and tight. These are metal pieces. We don't want any play in them. Okay, and they are both attached. And that's it. That's all we do for that issue. Nice and quick, issue 97. So we will move on to issue 98. So in issue 98, we actually have this piece of the door. It's basically the side of the and the end of the door. So you can see this will be the end that you see when the door is open. And it's got some nice detail pieces on it, including, I can't actually read any, that's far too small, but that's quite a nice detail. And, you know, it's a very simple fit. We've obviously still got the door out from before, and it literally drops into place just like so. And there are some very obvious screw posts. So we're going to start with 3 CM screws. And that piece is now attached like that. And there's one more little piece to do, which is the door handle. So it's a chrome piece, and it drops into this slot just here. And it is literally just a push fit. So we line it up, give it a little squeeze, and there's our door handle, looking pretty cool. That is everything for that issue. So we obviously want to take care of this door. So I'm going to see if I can get it back into the box. I sort of can. The hinges now kind of make it sit up a little bit. It is at least slightly protected. So that's the end of issue 98, and indeed the end of the video. So relatively straightforward. The window trims were a little bit fiddly, and I think they could have been designed better. I will see, interesting to see, shall I say, how well they stay on. I can see some glue happening at some point in that piece, but I'm going to see what happens. Who knows? I've seen someone else's one there. They put that together without glue, and it has stayed together. So maybe it's just me. But it does look really good, and I think the whole thing's come together to make for a really, really nice model. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to click the like and subscribe button, and check out one of my other videos. I'm building a whole bunch of different cars at the moment, and we'll have some new ones starting soon as well. And of course, I've got the 1989 Batmobile, so check out that video. I'll put a link below. In the meantime, take care, enjoy your builds, and I look forward to seeing you next time.